Evil had escaped from the depths. Still fettered to the throne, it travelled to wreak terrible vengeance on those who had done this, heavily supported by its little snots. The first target was Paladin Robert, now King of the Alliance. He had withdrawn to the quiet surroundings of his hunting lodge. There, he would be the perfect victim. According to scouts, King Robert spent most of his time strolling around his hunting lodge garden reciting poetry. Soon his poetry would turn into mournful ballads. The vengeful evil thirsted to defeat the Alliance's king and mount his head on the wall as a trophy. Whoops, of course, I really mean that he wanted to take all of King Robert's cookies away. Better play it safe, or the age classification folks will be after me. Before that, however, the ultimate evil had to do a bit of work on the dungeon. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to fund even a small army made up of a few orcs. Right now, the restricted evil was only able to call upon orcs and little snots. But there had been rumors that some goblins were hiding out. The warmongering evil had hired the first orc. As ancient wisdom says, violence is a solution, usually the only one. Another orc entered the service of the military-savvy evil. The horde was growing and prospering. The time to attack appeared to be right. On the surface, in the tavern of a small, miserable village, some adventurers gathered. They were acquiring Dutch courage for their visit to the dungeon by downing several beers. The dungeon had to be destroyed. The steady pounding in the rocks had given rise to overworld rumors of a new dungeon. A group of heroes set out to plunder its riches, and the ultimate evil was already looking forward to this visit. Enemies have entered the dungeon. The heroes didn't know what had hit them, as several orcs bore down from nowhere and annihilated them. This group of heroes had plundered their last dungeon, but there would be more. The first treasury was completed. Soon Greedy Evil's little snots would fill it with gold. You know the golden rule, right? Whoever has the gold makes the rules. The ultimate evil slowly made itself cozy underground. Although this was a sensible decision, there was a large and lovely overworld out there, just waiting to be destroyed. It's payday. Enemies have... The first brewery was completed. Soon beer would be flowing like a river, and an Oktoberfest atmosphere would pervade all. Would the ultimate evil put the beer baron out of business? Ugh, such a duff reference. Enemies have entered the dungeon. Payday! A delicious rumble announced the fact that the village's last house had crashed to the ground. Ha! There would be no more heroes meeting there to seek out the dungeon of the destruction-hungry evil. The hunting lodge of King Robert lay in the north. It was there that the ultimate evil would finally get its long-awaited revenge. However, it looked pretty damn well guarded. Maybe it should first visit the cave to the west, inhabited by a clan of goblins, where the cunning evil could do a little negotiating. The goblin leader prostrated himself joyfully before the ultimate evil and immediately dispatched 2 goblins into its dungeon with a few plans for a new room, a tinkerer's cave. This was built as quickly as possible. The Tinkerer's Cave was built. It could, however, only be used as a warehouse, as it lacked the workshop that the insidious Evil's goblins needed. Quick as a flash, Evil placed a creator mat in the Tinkerer's Cave. Defend the throne room. Payday. The Tinkerer's Cave was still lying there completely useless. The forgetful Evil should place a creator mat in there soon so that this room can be productive. The fortress could already be made out in the distance. The walls were lined with crossbowmen. A head-on assault would undoubtedly prove suicidal here. The horde came across a stray goblin by the roadside, who apparently constituted the sad remains of one of the hunting lodge's attack units. This miserable being joined the army of the powerful Evil with a grateful whimper. Your dungeon is full of yogurt. Yogurt? What's this all about? There's absolutely no yogurt. Oh, it's supposed to be a funny illusion, I see. Very funny. There are enemies in your dungeon. A sparkling new creator mat graced the tinkerer's cave of the expansion-hungry evil. A goblin would be able to work well in here, producing toolboxes. A few of these boxes would now be needed in order to invent a trap. The moody evil waited patiently. Undeterred, and completely ignoring the words of the narrator, Goofy Evil sent its army forwards. The crossbow archers on the walls got themselves ready. Payday! It's payday. The creatures of the ultimate evil suddenly developed a craving for chocolate. Chocolate. It's payday. It's payday. As cowardly as the goblins were, their creativity more than made up for this. They proudly presented the treacherous evil with their plan for a devious trap. With a silent, evil cackle, it quickly buckled down to setting the trap. Job done. The trap was finished and ready to be found by a hero. This is going to be so much fun. Just at that moment, a particularly powerful dwarf warrior appeared in the dungeon. How had he suddenly arrived at this precise time was indeed most odd, but his presence was more than welcome. He was going to be a guinea pig for the trap. Even this strong dwarf warrior didn't stand a chance against the treacherous traps and powerful monsters of the invincible evil. He bit the dust. So much for a game of dwarves. The dungeon's defenses were now clearly much improved, but the hunting lodge still remained well protected and impregnable. There was nothing that the ultimate evil could do. The task was impossible. So the evil withdrew, bent and broken, let feelings of revenge ebb away, and instead took up looking after those cute, teeny-weeny trees. What are they called again? Bonsai, yes, that's it. The end. Pretty unsatisfactory, huh? Of course, that wasn't the end. In reality, the indefatigable evil paid the goblin cave another little visit. The goblin leader would hopefully spit out something useful after a few more slaps. The expansion-driven evil couldn't wait to explore the further possibilities of the Tinkerer's Cave. In particular, a hospital seemed a useful way to cure its ailing units. It set about asking for this to be researched. It did take a while, but the horde eventually set out to talk to the leader of the goblins again. A few hard slaps were enough to motivate the leader of the goblins to help the ultimate evil. As it transpired, there was an old tunnel which had been previously used as an escape route. This connected the goblin cave with the vaults of the hunting lodge. The goblin leader voluntarily made a goblin assassin available to the hard-hitting evil to help infiltrate the lodge. It's payday. The cheerful evil was pleased with this support. An assassin was a decent melee fighter, but its actual strength lay in its ability to make itself invisible. This was, of course, tested out immediately. There are enemies in your dungeon. Oh. Meantime, several carnivorous penguins had begun to make their way to the ultimate evil's dungeon. They would arrive eventually, but definitely not before this story has ended. Despite the powerful invisibility skill, it was advisable for the ultimate evil to be cautious. Some opponents had such highly trained observation skills that they were actually able to see invisible units. A locked door prevented the assassin from progressing. It would have taken a long time for him to have opened it with sheer brute force using weaponry. Thankfully, he had a suitable skill with which he could deactivate doors, and more importantly, traps. The on-the-ball evil recognized that the warrior princess there was extremely powerful. The goblin assassin would be best advised to avoid any contact with her. A Gobobot was being forced to make miserable repairs in the lodge. A brief feeling of what it thought might be sympathy passed through the sensitive evil, but this actually turned out to be a mighty belch. Naturally, it would free the useful Gobobot anyway. There are enemies in your dungeon. Elated by the assassin's attempt at rescuing it, the Gobobot joined the horde and succeeded in showing its tormentors a real hot time. Its ability to more or less ignore range damage and set fire to large areas would come in very handy. The hunting lodge was completely destroyed. The vengeful evil gave itself a very self-satisfied pat on the back. The time was right to concentrate on King Robert. He was in his renowned garden reciting his much less renowned love poems. The lyrically challenged evil had no time for poetry and would soon make this tangibly clear to him. The king was accompanied by a pixie who was able to cast powerful healing magic. Any direct attack would be suicidal. Mercifully, the omniscient and helpful narrator was at hand. he pointed out to the impatient evil that the pixie went off from time to time in order to check that all was well, and much more importantly, eat her supper in a little camp to the south.
Roses are red, lilies are white. I love you totally, utterly, no. Roses are red, Ted Stark is dead. Now roses are red, fine. Your bum is as big as a white potato field. Roses are red, Ted Stark is dead. Now play peaceful. Roses are red, leaves are green. If you will not say yes, then I will be mean. It's good to be clear.
Payday!
Roses are red, lilies are red. I love you totally,
And so the negligent evil promptly allowed the only really vital unit to this mission to die. The goblin leader sighed and put his second best assassin at evil's disposal at the basement exit. One would think the killing of fragile, annoying little pixie had spoken her last healing spell. The crafty-minded evil sculpted a fan from her wings. Now it was time to look for King Robert and ensure his early demise. King Robert fell, and the ultimate evil had received its well-deserved revenge. But there were still many more heroes out there who deserved to bite the dust. Their time would come.